Hello, hello, welcome to White Ninja's first video tutorial. This section will be brought to you by Android Studio. We're going to learn how to develop Android applications using Android Studio. What we're going to do first, create an application. Within this application, we're going to be able to link to another project with just a simple button. This is a test video to see how well it'll work. So, you got your Android Studio installed, you got it set up and configured, awesome. Now, what you need to do is go ahead and just open up Android Studio. In this purpose, we're going to do something like just a test application. So you can name it whatever you want. If you're going to start on this one and carry it out and just configure everything to your needs for your app, that is fine too. Just name your project whatever you want to call it. In this case, I'm going to call mine multi-screen. Looks good. This one right here is what you're going to use to configure it. What are you going to target? Are you going to target phones and tablets? Are you going to target Android Wear? What about Android TV or even Android Glass? Yes, Android Audio is a new deal you can do in the new update. So, let's just go with a phone and tablet. You could choose your minimum SDK, go all the way back to Android 1 if you had the APIs installed on your computer, or you can target only Android Nugget. For this purpose, just go ahead and stick with API 14. As you can see, there is 97% of the devices that's on the store right now. Click Next. Now this is the different types of classes that you can use for your app. You want to do a navigation drawer where it slides to the right, go for it. If you want to do just a simple login activity, grab a Google Maps, or for the real programmers, just start with an empty blank sheet of paper and click Next. Now this is going to be the main activity, the start page, the landing page, the index.html for my web programmers out there. Whatever you want to call it, this can be done. You can leave it at main activity, or you can stay start page, splash screen, whatever you want to do. Once you have that named, just click Finish. Let it load up. Alright, so now we've got it loaded up. Hooray! Now, you can do a simple design editor and literally just drag and drop what you want in here. And like this hello world, delete that out of there. Cool. Works. I am not like that though. I'm a programmer. Gotta love it. So, the first thing we're going to do is go to the text button on the XML, activity main XML. In case this part did not load up for you, res layout activity main.xml. And here is what we're going to basically create our the front end, the HTML. We'll get to the CSS or the Java aspect in a second. So the first thing we need to do is we can go ahead and put a text on this screen, and then we're going to follow it by a button. So we can do this by simply doing text view. We're just going to wrap the content. And basically when we say wrap content, is we're just going to go ahead and have the box wrap around what's inside of this box. This one needs to be wrapped. Now what you need to do is go ahead and give this an ID. So we'll just do Android ID equals at plus ID, and we can call this whatever we want to call it. We'll just do intro text. Alright, I like to have mine centered, proportion. That's just me. So we'll just go ahead and do Android layout center horizontal. We're going to put that as true. Basically what we're saying there is we're going to put this in the dead center of the screen. Now, let's go ahead and apply our text. So we'll do Android text equals. Now, you can do this one of two different ways. Apply text directly like welcome, and there it is. Or, come over here to our values. Go into your strings file. Come over here in between the resources. Go ahead and put in string name int. And basically what you're doing is you're calling a string, or you're implementing a string. Now we need to give it some value. So let's do something like this. Let's do welcome. Now, let's come back over here to our main. and take that welcome out, and we'll do at string int. Same concept. We still get our welcome page, our welcome string text. We want it bigger, you want it smaller? We can do that by doing Android text size. So we'll do Android text size. And now this one, you just set the direct decimal value. So if you want it a little bit bigger, let's go to 35. Makes it a little bit bigger. It's good for this tutorial. Do you want the gray? I don't want the gray. Let's go ahead and put in a color form. So we'll just do Android text color. Now, this one, we could do the same way we did our text up here. We could either implement the color itself directly using a hex key. So we'll do it 00FF00. Give it a nice bright green. That's great. But if you want to do it with a string integer, not a problem. Come over here to your colors folder. Drop down. And we'll do color name txt_grn. Keep it short. So we'll do 00FF00. Awesome. Now if we come back over here, we replace this, so we do at color txt green. We still have our green text. So now we have that. Let's go ahead and put our button in there. So we'll do button. We'll wrap the content, or not match. We'll wrap the content. And then we will put this one, again, sign it with an ID. Always sign it with an ID, because if you don't sign it with an ID, then whenever you reference it later, later further down, as like underneath an ID, or you need to access it in your Java file, it's always nice to ID everything. So this one we'll go to click, we'll just call it button for right now. You can name it whatever you want to for your app. If you're building your own app with this, that is fine. Now let's go ahead and put this one below our ID. So what we're doing is we're calling this button to be below an ID. Well, the only other ID we have at this time is our intro text. So let's go ahead and do intro text. Now it moved it down. But we like everything to be dead center. So we could do Android layout center horizontal equals true. Voila. It's now in the center. But it's just a gray button. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and change that background button. So let's open up our colors text field again. And now we're going to sit here and do color name bckg underscore. Oh, let's do blue. So we have that. So now we'll do 0000FF. So now if we come back over here, we'll do Android background equals at color bckg blue. And now it's blue. But now let's say you want it to be transparent. This can be done utilizing a very simple ordeal. Go back to your colors, and then in the code that you want, you could do 99. What happens there? It becomes a little transparent. This is usually typically done whenever you have a background image that you want to see that image more. You can utilize that. If you don't want to, don't worry about it. For this purpose, we have it as a transparent button so you can kind of see the white. But it also turns it purple. I don't like that. I'm going to take that out. And now we got a solid blue. So now let's add some text into our field. So we're going to do Android text equals at string. Now let's come to our strings and say string name equals CLME. Yep, you guessed it. We're just going to do click me. Come back over here and then we'll do CLME. Click me. And that doesn't really show up well, so let's go ahead and bring that green text color that we have earlier. Let's go ahead and text color equals txt green. That shows up nice and bright like that. Alright, so now we have a basic layout. Now, we need to get this to go to another screen. We also need to create another screen. That is fine. What you're going to do is come over here to Java, in case it's not already open. open up Java, and then this first one right here, that's what you're going to look for. Right click, new activity, and guess what? Here's all of your activities that you can use right here. Let's just click on empty activity. And this one we'll just go ahead and do, sure, main 2 activity, or page 2. We'll do page 2. Now what's really great about doing it this way is you could do it manually. Insert just a Java, and then you have to insert the actual XML file that we can see right here. And then you have to implement that in the manifest. However, if you just do it the way we taught you, the way you just saw, it automatically puts page 2 in your manifest, automatically creates page 2 in the XML, and gives you the Java page that you need. So you're good to go there. Let's go ahead and close out of that. So we're back to this page. Now let's go to your main activity. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to call an action to reference to that button. So we're going to sit here and we're going to do something like, we'll just do page, we'll do button. Close that off. Now let's go ahead and create an event to access that button. So now we're going to do public void button. Open this up. Now we need to create a context in order for this button to actually take effect. So let's do final, as this is going to be the final statement, context. You can reference this context to whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and just call it context for right now. So we're going to do context equals this. In other words, this is going to be the context for this button, and we're going to get it set. So now we need to create a button element, and whenever you see the little red things pop up, it says, Alt Enter or something like that, and this turns red, and that little balloon pops up. It's basically saying, hey, this is an element that is not imported into the JavaScript. So let's go ahead and import it by pressing Alt Enter. And as you can see, we have button. So we're good to go there. Now we can call this button whatever we want to call it. So we can do PGBTN, references as page button, or button equals, you guessed it, we're calling a button, naming a button, and now we're going to reference that button. And then we got to find our button that we have on our main page. A lot of buttons here. So let's do a find view by ID. Now we can do we'll do it to where it is, the best way to do this would be, trying to think of how we could do this easily. So we'll just do it this way. RID button. Find view by ID. I'm missing something here. I know I am. That's what I'm missing. We're going to create, no, that's it. That's right. So now what we need to do is reference this button and tell it what to do. So we're just going to type in button. We're going to set on-click listener. So basically whenever the main button on this page right here is referenced, whenever it's clicked, it's basically saying, okay, we're going to listen for a click. So once we have that, we're going to do a new view on-click listener. Now what I like about it is if it pops up, it'll automatically generate all of this stuff for you. So you don't need to retype it all in again. I personally have these brackets set down because it's easier for me to read the code. Now, what we need to do is create an intent. What's going to happen in our action, in our intent? What is its intent purposes? So we reference this by doing intent. Again, going back to this Alt Enter because this is not here. Now come up here. There's no intent. So let's come back down here. Alt Enter. There we are, right there. So intent. Again, we got to call this intent something. You can name it whatever you want to. For this purpose, we're going to call it intent equals new intent. Now, we're going to reference back to our context. So we're just going to put context. Basically, we're saying, okay, this button, this context of a button is going to be inside of the intent. So we called that action up. Now let's go ahead and set this. So it's going to be, we're going to set the context to go to another page. In this case, it's going to be page 2 dot class. Always reference that class, because otherwise you basically saying the dot class is, okay, we're going to pull this class up, and then from that class, which is basically the Java, it can then reference our activity main, which is this right here. So while this is main activity, our activity main is actually the style sheet of what we're using. Now, we just simply do this by closing it off by doing start activity intent. And now, if you can spell right, intent. Just like that. Now, we're going to start our activity of intent that we just called right here. And once you click on this button right here, it will be able to go to this page, which is just a blank page. So now let's go ahead and repeat this process one more time for page 2. So we're just going to sit here and do text view, wrap content. Of course, you got to give it that ID, Android ID. We'll just do PG2. Android. Of course, you know me now. We like to put it in the center. So let's go ahead and put our text in there. Text, page 2. Just for testing purposes, I'm going to leave it like that. Or let's go ahead and put the button in here so that way we can go back to the main page. So we'll do button, wrap content, Android ID equals BTN2. Android, we're going to put this below our page 2 text, and we're going to put this in the center. So we'll put it right there. Now let's go ahead and put some text on here. Android text equals go back. Sounds good. So we have that. Now this button, once we put our page 2 scripts in here, we will be able to go back to main page. So let's go ahead and push this over here. Put this back in the middle. So let's do BCK BTN. Alright, so we're going to do public void BCK BTN, referencing that. So now we're going to do final context. Context equals this. Button equals button. Find view by ID, RID, BTN2. And then we're going to do button.set on click listener. New view on click listener. And then we're going to do at override public void on click view arguments of 0. Open this up. Intent equals new intent context main activity class start activity intent. Alright, now let's go ahead and import all of these different things into this special little page right here. So now basically all I did was I took this code right here, I called a button, I named a button section, created the button, and then I referenced it to be able to actually do something. In this case, we're going to page 2. Reverse technology inside of here. Called a button, created a button, referenced that button and created it, and then I went ahead and told that button this is what we're going to do when clicked. In this case, we're going back to the main page and start the button activity. Now, if you have done this, you go ahead and go to build, generate APK, go ahead and build it, and there's some errors. Of course there is. Let's go ahead and run this. Run app. Looks good. We'll run on that. My computer's not set up for that. Okay, so this is obviously something we can't do, so we'll just do intro txt. Now, obviously int cannot be handled as a string name, so we put this under welcome. So this was underneath our main activity, so instead of this one we'll do intro txt. Still the same thing. So let's go ahead and run this one more time on our emulator that we have selected. Oh yeah, I forgot I can't do that. But that's how you do that. Let's see, doing something down here. So let's see if this is actually going to build. It'd be cool if it does. Okay, well it does look like it's building. So I'll work on putting the emulator on my computer. And until next time, this is Dr. Elite with White Ninjas.